I know what you're thinking. Isn't this challenge just going to be the same as our PS1 Spyro video? Well, not quite. The Reignited trilogy might be a remaster of the original Spyro games, but it was built from the ground up and runs on a completely different engine. This means there are a fair few nuances specific to this remaster, and some of them are completely broken. So, can you beat Spyro 1 Reignited without gliding? Let's find out. Here are the rules, but first I just gotta say that after seeing some strange things that can happen in this game, it really makes me wonder how it's all held together behind the scenes, which is why it's perfect that the sponsor for this video, boot.dev, could help explain exactly that. If you don't know, boot.dev is an online learning tool for back-end developers, and I wish I knew about them years ago. I used to work alongside developers myself, and trying to learn from them was tiresome, which is a shame because I knew exactly how fun coding could be. Well, boot.dev knows this all too well. They've made sure that learning code is never boring, as their courses feel like a rewarding role-playing game. So while you're learning back-end web development in Python and Go programming languages, you also get a nice sense of accomplishment as you earn experience points, level up, unlock achievements, and even boost your ranking on a global leaderboard. It's designed to get you stuck into writing your own code and finishing projects as you go. Plus, your newfound coding knowledge in game development might help you understand how things like this can happen in your favourite video games. Also, boot.dev knows that times are tough. Not everyone wants to commit to a membership right away. That's why all boot.dev content is free to read and watch in guest mode, and paid memberships unlock AI assistance and all the RPG aspects. Speaking of tough times, how's this for a deal? If you click the link in our description and use our code NG+, you will get 25% off your first month, or 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. That's equivalent to 3 months for free. So take advantage of that deal with my link in the description and the code NG+. And maybe you can find out how exploits like this are even possible. Thank you, boot.dev, for sponsoring this video. Back to the rules. Rule number 1, we cannot use Spyro's wings for anything. This includes both gliding and flying. Rule number 2, glitches are fine, just no hacking. And finally, rule number 3, once we defeat the final boss, Gnasty Gnorc, we win. A few bits of housekeeping before we get started. First thing to mention is that we are also aiming for the maximum possible completion percentage, just to see how far we can push this challenge. Also, we are performing this run on the current patch of the PS4 version of the game. There are some version-specific glitches on other devices, so we'll make sure to mention those when we get to them. Also, when Spyro glides during level transitions, those don't count since we don't have any control over that. Oh, and full transparency, we also use the 99 lives cheat code numerous times in this run, purely as a convenient time save. One last thing, we won't resort to using glitches unless it's absolutely required to make progress or boost our completion percentage. We start off in the Artisans homeworld, and a few of the early stages will play out the same as the PS1 version. This means we can rescue all 4 dragons here without issue. Almost no part of Artisans requires any gliding at all, but in this run we will not be allowing the use of whirlwinds. I banned them initially in our PS1 run, but I did resort to using them in the end. This time we will not be using them at all, no exceptions. The only reason for this is consistency, as we banned whirlwinds in almost all our other Spyro glideless runs, and I think the challenge is more interesting as a result. This does mean that we can't access the gems on top of this tower, or the entire level of town square. We can just about break this chest for a green gem though, but alas, it's those few gems up top that prevent us from beating Artisans 100%. You can still reach this platform with a well-timed charge jump. In fact, you can also get out of bounds very easily in Artisans by just wedging Spyro in this corner. How is this still possible 6 years later? One last thing to mention before entering our first portal. We won't be able to play any flight level in this entire run, as these levels require flying. Each flight level would have rewarded us with 300 gems upon completion, and there are a total of 5 flight levels. That's already 1,500 gems out of the maximum 14,000 that are off limits in this run. The first portal we enter is Stone Hill. This level has a lower half and an upper half. The lower half is easy, everything is within reach down here. We don't jump down the well just yet though, we need the key down on the beach first, although the only way back up from the beach is to ride a whirlwind. But if we death abuse use by jumping into the water, we respawn at the last dragon pedestal that we touched, and the key remains in our inventory. Now we can jump down the well and rescue another dragon and open the locked chest for some more gems. Once again, it seems we're stuck down here with a whirlwind as the only way to lift us back out. But if we pause the game and exit the level, the collectibles are all saved and we can just re-enter the level to carry on where we left off. This leads us to another whirlwind inside this tower. This is the intended method of reaching the level's upper areas, but it seems we have no way up here. However, a quirk of the original game still exists in this remaster, even if only in a limited form: proxies. A proxy can occur when Spyro is occupying the same space as another solid object, like an enemy. These rams are perfect as their only attack is to charge and ram their heads into us. If we jump and land on top of their heads right as they attack, but we're also pinned against the wall, the ram can proxy us upwards. We can use this near the start to reach the upper level thanks to this ram. We clear out all the gems up here and even grab our first dragon egg. All that remains is a single dragon statue and a small number of gems on top of that tower. But without using a whirlwind, getting all the way up there seems hopeless. So we left this level 6 gems short and 1 dragon short. The next level is Dark Hollow, and this might be the easiest level in the run. Gliding isn't required at any point, and any gap we see can be charge jumped over. This gives me time to mention that the charge jump is a bit different in the Reignited version. It feels a bit more like the charge jump in Spyro 2 and 3 now, whereas in the original Spyro 1, Spyro barely got any height at all. Although, something that was better in the original, if Spyro charged out of the air following a normal jump, he was able to cover quite a bit of distance, and that same method does not work in Reignited. Oh well, regardless of that, we can still get 100% completion in Dark Hollow. Now we face the first boss of the run, Toasty. This is another level that doesn't require any gliding, so this is another easy 100%. The only reason I say Dark Hollow is easier than this one is because these dogs still catch me off guard sometimes. Now we can travel to the game's second homeworld, Peacekeepers. The balloonist has set criteria that we must complete before he will take us to the next homeworld though, and this time he wants us to have saved 10 dragons, and even though we weren't able to access Town Square, we were still able to rescue more than 10. In Peacekeepers there is a bit of platforming, but we can easily reach almost every gem, dragon and dragon egg. The only real challenging part is reaching the locked chest at the end. In the original, we had to damage boost our way there and take advantage of a spinning backwards jump at the end. We can't use a spinning backwards jump in this version, but we can damage boost our way to this rock. To my surprise, Spyro can stand on this, and from here we can just reach the platform we're trying to get to. With that is 100% completion in Peacekeepers. Although it was this level we noticed that Spark sometimes decides he doesn't want to pick up certain gems. It's like I have to do everything myself around here. We enter the first level of this homeworld, Dry Canyon. Reaching the end of this level is simple. It's the optional paths that we struggled with. Something that helps a lot, Spyro can actually stand on top of these spikes that stick out of the sides of the buildings. This helps us to reach gems that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to. There is a faraway platform with a locked chest on it, but we won't reach that from here. There's also this ledge that we can't quite reach either. In the original we could stand on top of these roofs, and that helped us to reach this platform no problem, but we can't stand on those roofs in Reignited, and the spikes don't protrude out of this building enough for us to stand on them. So that's another part of this level we can't reach. Although this is a good time to bring up a new feature to this game compared to the original, Coyote Time. Basically, as Spyro charges over an edge, he will stay suspended in air for about half a second longer than you'd think. We can still jump while suspended like this too, and what's more, Spyro seems to get slightly more height on a charge jump if we jump during Coyote Time. This is very helpful and we will use it a lot during this run. It's just too bad it doesn't help us reach this ledge here though. It does help us clear various larger gaps throughout the game though. We have to cut our losses at 81% and move on to Cliff Town. everything on the ground level can be reached as normal, but there are some gems on the rooftops that we cannot reach. We can get on top of some of the lower rooftops with some tight charge jumps, and we can even ignite this rocket from below. However, just like with the PS1 version, we're never going to reach the other half of this level on the other side of the gorge without gliding over there. There are also some hidden gems behind the start of the level, and it's intended that we glide there from high above. On the PS1 version, it was possible to jump and charge around this rock to reach the other side without having to glide, but as we mentioned, doing this in Reignited Trilogy doesn't provide the same distance, and we just couldn't make it. We had to leave this level on 71% complete. Ice Cavern is up next. There are 5 dragons in this level, and we can rescue them all. Some of the gems are a little bit awkward to track down, but if we're ever missing any, it was likely because we forgot to charge into these poles to knock down the gems. Plus, if you hold L3 in this game, Sparks points to the nearest gems if there are any remaining in the level. None of the platforming requires gliding except if we want to reach this key. This lone, small platform is just out of our reach, no matter where we approach it from, regardless of how optimal our charge jumps were. This prevents us from collecting 2 red gems and from opening the locked chest from earlier in the level. This puts us on 368 out of 400 gems and 96% completion. That brings us to the second boss level of the game, Dr. Shemp. Just like in the PS1 version, we're very limited early on. Both the boss fight and several gems are off limits as they require whirlwinds to reach. However, these large enemies smack Spyro if we get too close. It doesn't deal damage, but it does knock us upwards and backwards. If we time a jump right here, right as the enemy swings for us, it can knock us onto the top of the platform behind us. This helps us reach a couple more gems, but we can't reach any other part of this level from here. There is one more damage boost we can use thanks to the small running enemies. If we stand here against this rock wall, the enemy will charge into us from the left side and knock us right on top. That helps us get a few more gems and a key, but we can't reach the locked chest in this level anyway. And we also can't rescue the one and only dragon here either. Let's move on to the third homeworld. The balloonist requires us to have collected a total of 1,200 gems before we can travel there, but we have over 1,800 now. There are a couple of dragon eggs to be rescued in this homeworld, and here is also where we get our first taste of supercharging. We're gonna have to get used to this. There's also a key we can find that opens a hidden locked chest earlier in the homeworld, but supercharging allows Spyro to break locked chests. So even though we did use the key in the end, keep in mind you can supercharge these chests to break them. That's 100% in the Magic Crafters. The first level in the third homeworld is Alpine Ridge, and we really can't do much here at all. It goes pretty much exactly like the PS1 version. There's a few gems at the start, then we rescue one dragon. We jump over a few wide gaps, and this is where we're stuck. Just like on the PS1, there's no way we can charge jump over this gap. We can't reach anywhere else on this level either, so we must leave Alpine Ridge far sooner than we'd like. And at only 24% completion. The high caves are up next, and there are 2 directions we can take right away. We took the high road first to rescue a dragon, but there's not much more to do this way. On the PS1 we were just about able to charge jump across these moving platforms, but we can't do the same in Reignited. We can still reach this roof for more gems though. That leaves us with the second path through the caves themselves. We can only kill the metal spiders once we have the super flame power up or the super charge, so we avoid them as best we can as we travel to the other side of the caves. Once we get our super flame power from this fairy, we turn back and kill all the spiders. Once we reach this area, we no longer have to worry about falling off the edge, as the fairies will catch us and return us to the top of the nearby supercharge ramp. The idea is to use this supercharge ramp to reach any area we cannot normally reach without gliding. This goes well with the smaller gaps as we grab more gems, rescue another dragon egg, and rescue the third and last dragon of the level. When it comes to the more distant ledge, it's intended that we ramp off here for height and then glide over to it, since we'll never reach it with a supercharged jump alone. There is a way though. As long as we keep the charge button held down and don't bump into a wall, Spyro will stay stay supercharging. This means we can supercharge jump over to the closer ledge at an angle and quickly supercharge jump over to the further ledge. We can grab more gems and rescue a dragon egg over here. It seems like we're trapped over here now, but as we said, we can fall off the edge and get carried to safety by fairies. The only gems left in this level now are the ones behind the 2 moving platforms, and the 2 gems that we would get for defeating the 2 enemies on those moving platforms. We can use the extra jumping height that Spyro can get from supercharging to reach this opening in the wall here, and this leads us to the other side of those moving platforms. But the big issue with supercharging is that it's not easy to stop charging once you start. Spyro will never stop dead if we let go of the charge button during a supercharge. He carries a lot of momentum with him as he charges. Also, Spyro cannot stop mid-air during a supercharge at all. Any jump during a supercharge is a commitment. We can bump into walls to kill our speed, and that's what we do once we make it through this opening. And from here, we can even use a regular charge jump to reach the first moving platform. There's no hope of reaching the second platform from here though. If we could maintain supercharge throughout, we could potentially make the jump, but that's a lot easier said than done though. We always ended up hitting a wall here, even when it looked like our aim was good. But then we had another idea. We can supercharge all the way back through the caves and to the start of the level again. The path is a bit windy, but as long as we don't hit a wall, we can make it all the way and just hit the last enemy. That is 100% in the high caves. Sometimes I surprise myself. That brings us to Wizard Peak, and right at the start of the level we can see a side path on the left. This brings us to a whirlwind that's used to reach the rooftops of the first couple of buildings, which means all the gems up there are off limits to us. Inside the buildings are several enemies, including the wizards on the balconies that we can't reach. It's intended that we drop down to these balconies from the rooftops, but of course we can't do that. Just after rescuing the first dragon of the level, we find another supercharge ramp. This is the first level that really starts to show how supercharging differs slightly compared to the PS1 game. The longer Spyro is supercharging, the more momentum he builds up, and you can see when the momentum boosts by the flames that comes from Spyro's feet. This provides further jumps when launching off ramps, which naturally helps us to reach the distant platforms. The plan is to use supercharge to reach the balconies that we couldn't reach before. We found that we still couldn't quite make it up there, but do you remember when we said that Spyro gets more height if we charge jump during coyote time? Well, it just so happens there's a hole in the middle of the room, and we can use that to our advantage. We supercharge right towards it and jump at the right moment to easily reach the balcony. And we only just managed to kill our momentum in time before we went right over the edge. We can use this exact strategy to reach the further balcony, only we sailed right over it this time. We still got the gem though, but we do actually want to land on that balcony. We realise that it's the closest platform to the rooftops that we can still reach, but the issue is we would need to take a left turn at a very tight angle as soon as we reach the balcony. This is where the momentum building mechanic is actually a detriment. We're simply too fast by the time we reach the balcony. It is possible to decrease our momentum mid-supercharge though. We need to collide with walls, but at such an angle that we don't bonk our head and keep supercharging. There are 2 walls we can use during this supercharge, the one before this bridge and the one just before the balcony. The lower speed allows us to take this left turn as tight as possible, which allows us to hit a coyote time super jump. We hit the roof and roll right back off it again. It seems that even after all that, we still can't get the height we need to get up there. Thankfully, the rest of this level is all possible. Some of the far off platforms can be a pain to reach, but we can use our momentum killing strategy to help control how far we super jump. It takes a fair few attempts, but after a while we were able to rescue both dragon eggs, all the dragons, and grab every gem that's not stuck on those rooftops. Hopefully you can see now why the 99 life cheat was necessary. Can you imagine having to go back at the start of the level after every few deaths instead of the checkpoint? We leave Wizard Peak at 98% completion. The boss of the third homeworld, Blowhard, is not only easy, but his entire level is just as easy as he is. The short level is very linear and there's nothing out of reach. Most platforming the level has can be done with normal jumps. There is one gap that requires a charge jump, but that's it. With that, that's 100% completion here. The fourth homeworld is Beastmakers, and all we need to fly there is 5 dragon eggs. We have more than enough by now. There's not a lot of platforming here. The gaps between the electrified floors are generously small. The gaps in the swamp area are a bit wider, but it's nothing we can't clear with charge jumps. There is a well we can jump down to find the portal to a flight level along with some gems, and this traps us down here with a whirlwind as our only way out. This is exactly what happened to us in Stone Hill, but since this is a homeworld and not a normal level, we can't exit from the pause menu like we did in Stone Hill. We could just quit the game and reload the save, but a better way is to take advantage of a new feature in the Reignited trilogy, and that is fast travel to any previous level, and then fast travel back here again. The most challenging place to reach here is the tree stump in the swamp, but we can damage boost our way to it and stand on one of the roots. With that, we can grab the key and use it to open the locked chest. That is 100% completion in the Beastmakers. We need to rescue 50 dragons to fly to the 5th homeworld. We only have 37 dragons right now. I'm not sure there are even 13 more dragons left in this entire homeworld, but let's see how things go. The first level here is Terrace Village, and the beginning of it is quite simple. It seems the game has ramped up the number of enemies rather than the platforming sections, although it's right at the end of the level where we get stuck. We can just about make this jump here with maximum coyote time, but unless we use this whirlwind, we can't make any more progress. And we can't even reach the vortex at the end of the level. This also means that we can't reach any of the roofs in this level either, as it's intended that we glide from roof to roof. All this prevents us from reaching are several gems, but there are also rockets on the roofs that we can't ignite. So that's even more gems we're missing out on, since the only way to open those locked metal chests is with those rockets. At least we're able to rescue both dragons on this level to put our total on 39. So we'll move on to the Misty Bog. We tend to need damage boosts to make it across some of the gaps over the swamp water, but doing so allows us to reach almost anywhere in the level. At one point we'd taken enough damage from the enemies that we couldn't damage boost our way off this island, and since we rescued a dragon on this island, that checkpointed us here. That meant that even death abusing wouldn't get us off this island, so we had no choice but to exit the level and return again. This time we take the path that leads to the end of the level, and we can use charge jumps to reach the top of this structure for more gems. But this is also where it's intended that we glide from here to the tree stump in the swamp below to reach even more gems, and there's no way of reaching them otherwise. In the PS1 version, we were just about able to take full advantage of the damage boosting to cross the swamp from an earlier part of the level. Since Spyro can jump out of the swamp water 3 times before dying, and you get a boost in distance by charging at the apex of each jump, this was fairly simple on the PS1 version. However, this kind of distance just isn't possible in Reignited. You also can't stand on any of the tree roots sticking out of the stump, no matter how much it might look like you can. So we need to leave this level on 93%. Next, it's time for everyone's favourite level, Treetops. Our first goal is to reach any supercharge ramp we can, as supercharging will be our solution for almost all of this level. The only challenging part that separates us from a supercharge ramp is this gap here, and thankfully it is just possible to clear this gap with maximum coyote time off this very corner. Since there's a dragon to rescue here, that secures this spot as our checkpoint. Anyone who's played this level will know that from here it's all about chaining together supercharges from one ramp to the next to build enough momentum to reach the various far-off platforms. Even though supercharging for a few seconds builds Spyro's speed, chaining multiple supercharge ramps together still builds up even more speed. Casually, we would just glide at the apex of our massive jumps to safely reach any island we want to land on. Of course, we can't rely on that. There is one island we cannot reach without gliding. We can get really close, but when using the intended path, this is about as close as I ever got. There is a quicker way to set ourselves up to retry this jump. Using this dragon pedestal as our checkpoint, we start by standing here on this vine near the start of the supercharge ramp. Then we jump up, charge down in mid-air, and rotate to the right as we fall. This gives us a supercharge and we can circle round directly to the ramp we need to reach. This doesn't make the jump itself any easier, however, we do have a way. Check this out. It's actually possible to stand on a very small part of this roof just to the left of the ramp, but the spot that we can stand on is very precise. The idea is to turn left on this ramp and jump off that very small part of the roof. The only way to reach that part of the roof is with a very well-timed jump, taking full advantage of coyote time. The part of the roof we can land on is just above this wooden log. If we keep the jump button held down from the previous jump, Spyro will jump as soon as he lands on that small bit of roof. But then we also need to make a hard right turn to avoid bonking into the roof itself. If we can chain all that together, we can just make it to the one and only island that we couldn't reach. We just need to aim for the building on that island to kill Spyro's speed, or we'll sail straight off the edge. With that, we managed 100% completion in the treetops. Now for the boss level of the 4th homeworld, Metalhead. As is the theme with boss levels, it's quite short. Early on we can see a couple of roofs that we can't reach, just like on the PS1, so we'll jump down to the sewer area instead. Down here we find a few gems and a key, but since the only way back up is with a whirlwind, we need to death abuse to spawn back up top with the key, just like we did in Stonehill. From here we can rescue the one and only dragon in the level, and face Metalhead himself. We charge into these pylons when they're green to make him run away, and we grab all the gems on the pathway as we go. This includes this path to the left that leads to the locked chest. We need to charge into even more pylons, but before we do that, we want to wait a while. Metalhead will throw monkey enemies at us, and each one that we dodge will drop a gem. If we defeat Metalhead too early, the remaining monkey enemies that don't get thrown will remain on that roof above Metalhead, and we'll never be able to reach them from here without using a whirlwind. Only when there are no monkeys left should we charge into all the pylons and end the fight. Just beyond this is where we see that whirlwind that leads to the upper floor of this building. We already got all the monkeys gems up there, but there are still some more gems up there we can't get. This means we must leave here with 95% completion. Now, we want to move on to the next homeworld, but as we mentioned, we need to have rescued 50 dragons. After rescuing as many as we could on this homeworld, we now have a total of 47. We are 3 dragons short, and this is the very same thing that happened to us on the PS1 version of this run. Back then, the only solution we could come up with was to be less strict with the rules and allow whirlwinds. Doing so meant we could access Town Square, and there are 4 dragons there alone. We're not going to tamper with the rules this time. If we want 3 more dragons, we need to start exploiting a few of the game's mechanics. I would hesitate to call these glitches, but I'll let you decide. First, we return to Stonehill. There was one dragon we couldn't reach here, and it was on top of this tower, but with how small our first ram proxy was, it doesn't seem like a ram proxy would be the answer. But check this out. If we stand right here, just to the right of the tower's archway, and then time a jump just before the ram attacks us, and also make sure to land on the ram's right horn as it attacks, we can get a very high ram proxy. That was harder than it looked, but with that, we now have 48 dragons in total, and we've also beaten Stonehill 100%. That was just a proxy though, not really a glitch, right? So let's move on to the next dragon. We're going back to Dr. Shemp. We will use the same damage boost we used last time on our first visit to get back up to this ledge again. We couldn't make any progress here last time, as we're too far away from the rest of the level, but would you believe this part of the ground on the right side has invisible collision? You can stand as far as this, which I never would have worked out myself, so thank you to the helpful people in my chat for this one. We can't see where the invisible collision ends, but we still need to get coyote time before jumping from it, otherwise we won't make it over there. It's still very possible to do though, and that is our 49th dragon rescued. While we're here, we will defeat Dr. Shemp of course to grab more gems, and as long as we use that proxy we used from earlier to reach the key, we can even open the locked chest. That puts us on 93% completion for Dr. Shemp. Invisible collision still isn't really a glitch though, right? The 50th dragon might be the more surprising one. When I learned this, it sounded far too unbelievable, but it's totally true. Did you know that in the Reignited trilogy, if you leave the game running for 75 minutes, excluding time spent in menus and excluding time spent on the pause screen or load times, Spyro will suddenly be able to jump ever so slightly higher than normal. I found it hard to believe, but the speedrun community all swore by it. It is a commonly known glitch in the Spyro speedrun community. I even tested this myself here in Clifftown. I waited until we were a few seconds away from the 75-minute mark, and then I jumped up and down on the spot over and over. At first, I didn't notice any difference, but after reviewing the footage, you can see the difference in height. With how long it's taken us to get this far in the run, we've definitely been playing for over 75 minutes by now. We actually tried to use this new small amount of height to see if we could make any of the jumps we couldn't quite make before. Things like reaching this tower in the Artisans in hopes of reaching Town Square, or maybe reaching the key in the Ice Cavern so we can get the last few gems there. But even though we were slightly closer, despite my best efforts, we still had no luck of reaching anything new. Except for in Dry Canyon, right at the very end of the level, there is a dragon we couldn't reach. If we stand on the right side of this bridge and charge jump forwards with Coyote time, we can get just enough height to reach this platform. From here, reaching the dragon is trivial. We can also grab the key here, but the locked chest is on a distant platform that we'll still never be able to reach. You can decide whether this 75-minute thing is a glitch or not, I don't know anymore. But this does mean that we now have 50 dragons. We can fly to the 5th homeworld, the Dreamweavers. And just like in the PS1 version, we get stuck immediately. The first gap we see is too wide, and we can't reach the other side without gliding. This was another time where we had to bend the rules slightly on the PS1. We allowed one glide as long as we avoided all collectibles and level portals within this homeworld, but this is a perfect time to clear up a mistake I made in that PS1 video. It turns out this jump is actually possible. It was proven by someone more talented than I, RJ Waters. In fact, embarrassingly, this technique that RJ Waters uses, where he jumps, charges, lands on the edge, jumps again with added momentum, and then charges at the apex, this can actually be used to clear a few gaps in the original PS1 Spyro that I failed to clear in my video. You can tell it was one of my earliest challenge runs by the lack of research. Sorry about that, everyone. Returning to the Reignited version though, this jump is legitimately impossible this time. That same technique we saw on the PS1 will not work here. So we are actually stuck here for real this time. This is as far as we can get in Spyro 1 without using his wings, unless we allow glitches. It's time to learn about a very useful glitch called level storage. The basic explanation is that we want to load 2 levels at once. This can be done by both leaving and exiting a level at the same time. The way to do this is simple. If we pause the game, the pause screen tells us what level we're currently in. If we pause the game on the same frame that we hit a level portal, the pause screen will say that we're in the level already before it's even loaded properly. We also have the option to exit that level despite not being in it yet. If we do that, Spyro both enters and exits that level at the same time. This can cause all kinds of odd visual effects depending on the level portal we use, but there is a very specific level storage that we want. It can only be performed in Spyro 2 Reignited. The glitch can be transferred over to Spyro 1 or Spyro 3 after it's been performed, so there's no issue there. The only thing is, in order to pull this off, we at least need access to the Gulp boss fight in Spyro 2. Casually, that means reaching the end of the first 14 levels in Spyro 2 to collect all 14 talismans. I feel the spirit of this challenge wouldn't be intact if we didn't get those 14 talismans without using Spyro's wings. And if you want to see how we did that, stay tuned to the channel for our Spyro 2 Reignited glideless video. Or if you're watching this later, then maybe it's the next video in the playlist. Anyway, here's how it's done. Once we have access to Gulp's boss arena, we enter the Autumn Plains homeworld and make our way to the hold that leads to Gulp. On the way there, enter enter one of the other level portals, it doesn't matter which, but I usually choose Shady Oasis. Feel free to skip the level's cutscene and pause and exit the level right away. This is done to manipulate RNG for something coming up. Now we stand in front of Gulp's arena entrance. Just like with the level portals, we can pause the game on the same frame that we enter the level and then select exit level. Boss levels work a bit differently compared to other levels. They don't actually load until the cutscene is finished playing, so we're exiting the level before it actually loads in. You can't tell by looking, but what this has done is return Spyro to the homeworld during the cutscene. We're able to move around and everything. We can even hear the gameplay and cutscene audio at the same time. When the cutscene ends, the boss level loads in and the glitch ends as the game returns to normal. So what can we do in those few seconds that we have control of Spyro in the background? We want to enter a speedway, which are Spyro 2's equivalents of flight levels, and it just so happens that the default spawning location in any homeworld is directly in front of a speedway. But there are two speedways in Autumn Plains, which means the game will choose one at random to spawn us outside of. Of the two, we want to spawn outside of Metro Speedway and not Icy Speedway. The reason for this is that Icy Speedway needs gems to be spent to unlock it, and we can't reach the Icy Speedway portal casually without gliding, which means we can't unlock it. This is why we entered Shady Oasis before starting this glitch, as entering any level seems to result in Metro Speedway becoming our default spawn location most of the time. You can tell that the game is going to spawn us outside of Metro Speedway instead of Icy Speedway because when we exit Gulp's arena on the perfect frame, during the loading screen, the background starts off as purple and then turns orange. If it starts as orange and then stays orange, then Spyro will spawn outside of Icy Speedway instead, and we'll have to start this glitch all over again. Of course, we're controlling Spyro blind for the next step, as all we can see is the cutscene. First things first, we will know that Spyro can be controlled because we hear his feet hit the ground, or a better way to tell, if you're using a controller, it will vibrate. After Spyro spawns outside of the Metro Speedway, we want to walk into Metro's portal. Since Spyro has his back to the portal, all we need to do is tap the left trigger to center the camera, walk down right a single step, and then hold down. We'll know we've gotten it right if we see a Spyro silhouette in the bottom right corner of the screen. In a few seconds, we hear the speedway loading in, and since the speedway starts Spyro flying automatically, we need to spam the charge button to nosedive into the water right away. We can hear a menu window pop up in the background, which is the speedway's level asking us if we want to retry the speedway or quit. If we just press X to retry, the speedway loads back up again. So what we want to do is press X and then immediately spam triangle to skip Gulp's cutscene. This means that now the speedway and the boss arena are both loading at the same time. At first, it doesn't look like anything happened, but if we die and respawn in this boss fight, the game now thinks we're in a speedway at all times. This is the power of level storage. This means that we get all the benefits of being in a speedway, but in any level we want. The main benefit is being able to fly anywhere, but that's against our rules. The benefit we want is unlimited supercharge. If we fast travel to any other level, then we'll get the option to quit game. We then load into Spyro 1, and sure enough, the glitch has carried over. Let's address the elephant in the room. Every time we start a level from now on, or respawn, Spyro starts off flying. Even if we hold the charge button as the level loads in, you could still argue that we kinda see Spyro flying for a split second. Well, there are two ways around this. The first one is to pause the game on the earliest frame we can, before we can even see Spyro, and then fast travel somewhere else before we see the flight. This is what we did to exit Gulp's arena before the flight happens. If you actually want to explore a level, then all we need to do is hold the left analog stick upwards as the level loads in. Spyro will hit the ground so quick he's already standing by the time we see him. I understand that might not sit well with everyone watching, but to be honest, this whole glitch is a bit controversial anyway. We're using it out of pure necessity though, but there is a huge downside to using level storage like this. We still have that 30-second timer in the top right corner. We can't afford to let that timer run out in this run, because if it does, the game treats it like we failed to beat a speedway fast enough, and pressing retry will load Spyro back into Metro Speedway. away, only the level itself won't quite load in properly. All kinds of weird things can happen if we let that timer run out, but there are ways to ensure it never does. Either we death abuse before the 30 seconds, or we fast travel somewhere else before the 30 seconds. With that, it's time to take level storage into Dreamweavers. And as you can see, there's nowhere we can't reach now with this speed. We enter any level portal that we can, and then leave those levels right away. This is just so we can fast travel back to those levels later on. As for the homeworld itself, we can use Supercharge to reach just about anywhere we want, which is handy as there are several floating platforms that we would never reach otherwise. The hardest platform to reach is the one with the dragon on top of it, but it is just about possible. From here, we can reach the magic cannon that allows us to shrink the big armored enemies, which is required in order to be able to defeat them. There are only 2 big armored enemies that don't get shrunk automatically, which is why the cannon is required. But these enemies are immune to being supercharged. Only a regular charge kills them. This is due to the game not being quite prepared to handle how these enemies die if you supercharge them, since you were never meant to be able to supercharge here in the first place. We can't even remove level storage after shrinking them because when we return here, they're already back to their regular size. We can't shrink them without supercharging to reach the cannon, but we can't kill them with supercharge. It's a catch-22 situation, but it basically means that we can never kill these 2 enemies in this run, which sucks because we receive 10 gems from each of them if we kill them. There's also a path behind these 2 big armored enemies, but we can use a supercharge to jump right over them. The timing is tight if we want to reach everything on this path, and this is also when I discovered this secret room for the first time for a skill point. I never knew this room existed, so maybe it was added into the Reignited version? The best part about this secret room though is that it can help us kill our speed by bonking into the edge of it. We can even use the room itself to jump from further back when reaching the next few platforms. How convenient of the devs to put that room there. With that, we have all 3 dragons and 280 out of 300 gems, since we can't kill those 2 enemies for the last few gems. That leaves this homeworld on 95% completion. And normally we would start to try the levels in this homeworld, but first we decided to revisit all the previous levels where we weren't able to get 100% and see if level storage could help us get more collectibles. We revisited Artisans to see if we could reach the last few gems, but we ended up doing one better. This took several hours of practice, but eventually we were able to supercharge across these platforms below the town square portal. This helped us reach some more gems, but reaching the bridge at the end seemed to be impossible. We failed over and over again. However, it turns out we just needed to hit the corner of the portal at the perfect angle so that instead of bonking, Spyro enters the portal. So now not only do we have access to town square, but we can exit town square from the pause menu and grab the last few gems in Artisans too. That's 100% in Artisans. It was also this point that we noticed that Sparks had turned invisible. Not because we'd taken too much damage, but as a result of the level storage glitch. We're not going to do town square just yet though, we're going to return here when we don't have level storage. For now, the next level we left incomplete was Dry Canyon, and there was just one far off platform we couldn't reach. However, if we race there as fast as we can, avoiding all enemies, we can leap onto that platform from here before the 30 seconds is up. Normally you would need a key to open the metal chest, but as we mentioned back in the Magic Crafter's homeworld, we can break locked chests with supercharge. That's when we realised we were still missing some gems on this level, and since Sparks is still invisible, we can't rely on him to point at the nearest gems. Thankfully, we remembered that there was one other platform we couldn't reach before, and reaching it now is easy, so that's 100% in the Dry Canyon. The next level we're revisiting is Cliff Town, and clearing that big gorge is easy now that we can supercharge. We just need to grab all the gems, kill all the birds, and quickly rescue the dragon up here. We didn't have time to do all of that in 30 seconds, but if we exit the level before 30 seconds are up, and then fast travel back again, the timer restarts and all collectibles are saved, so we can just keep repeating that process until we have everything. We can also reach the highest rooftops from here, and the platform behind the starting area for the last remaining gems. That's 100% in Cliff Town. We returned to Ice Cavern, and at first we thought we should get that key that we couldn't reach, but we don't need it. We can just supercharge into the locked chest, although we still need to get onto that small platform where the key was because there are 2 red gems on there too. Since Sparks won't grab them unless Spyro is on the ground, we need to make sure that we don't overshoot the jump, and we just managed to grab both gems at the same time. That's 100% in the Ice Cavern. We revisited revisited Dr. Shemp's level, and we want to get as close as we can to the last few gems. We can take this time to mention that if we race to the dragon pedestal in a level and then death abuse before 30 seconds, Spyro will respawn on that dragon pedestal with the 30-second timer restarted. This allows us to start our 30 seconds from here instead of the level's beginning. Plus, Spyro doesn't start off flying when he respawns like this. It is just possible to supercharge onto this higher ledge above, but only if you jump off the dragon pedestal for a tiny bit of extra height. We actually managed to nail the landing in such a way that it killed our supercharged momentum before we were sent over the edge. Both of the platforms we have yet to reach are either too high or too far away, so reaching either of them from here seems impossible. However, we can just stand on the very corner of the building and jump off again to reach the purple gem. Stopping on this platform isn't easy, so it took us a couple of tries, but when we can do it, from here we can just make it to a higher part of the building and then jump our way up to the final few gems just in time. That's 100% in Dr. Shemp. We can do a lot more in the next level though. We return to Alpine Ridge, and the gap we couldn't clear last time is easy now. There's even a dragon right here so that we can secure a checkpoint before we death abuse. But it's important that we don't kill the magic enemy first before rescuing this dragon. Killing an enemy before rescuing a dragon means that that enemy won't respawn after we death abuse, because we checkpointed after it was dead. We need him alive so that we can take advantage of his ability to raise the floor. We sneak up behind him to stay out of sight, and we are elevated up along with him. This helps us reach another dragon, and we can even supercharge straight through these fireworks for their gems without getting knocked back. Oh, and the egg thief up here didn't stand a chance with our newfound speed. The last part of the level is on a faraway ledge that we're supposed to glide to, but a supercharge gets us right over there just fine. Once we have everything over there, we have beaten Alpine Ridge 100%. The next level we haven't fully beaten is Wizard Peak due to the gems on the roof, but considering that this level provides us with the means to supercharge anyway, level storage doesn't really help us, so we'll just have to stick with the 98% we already had. Instead, we move right on to Terrace Village. We grab a checkpoint halfway through the level, and now we can finally reach the vortex at the end of the level. From here, we do some roof hopping to grab the gems we missed. There are some further roofs that have rockets on top that we would normally use to break open the locked chests, but of course we can just supercharge through those chests. That's 100% in Terrace Village. Misty Bog is next, and this time when our starting jump was this good, we can damage boost our way over the swamp water very easily. But it turns out the enemies on the other side cannot be killed with supercharge, just like those two enemies in the Dreamweavers. As any Spyro player knows, big enemies need to be killed with flame breath and smaller armored enemies need to be charged. Just like in Dreamweavers, once level storage is active, all we can do is supercharge and not regular charge. If the armored enemies in the level don't react to supercharging, then there's nothing we can do to kill them. I find this especially odd as there are many other enemies in many other levels that do die to supercharge, even in levels where there is no way to supercharge in the first place. It must just be on an enemy by enemy basis, and the only way to remove level storage is by either closing the game or re-entering Metro Speedway in Spyro 2, so there's no chance of deactivating it on this platform. We were able to boost our completion percentage to 98 though, but just when we thought there was nothing else we could do here, something was discovered whilst I was making this video. Since I recorded this footage later, we've already removed level storage. Check this out. The vortex at the end of the level is directly below the tree stumps. If we jump right here, we land on top of even more invisible collision. Spyro just kind of bounces up and down when standing here, and if we time our next jump as Spyro bounces up, we can ensure maximum height and just reach the swamp water above the waterfall. This allows us to damage boost onto this stone wall. From here, we can damage boost to the tree stumps, and this allows us to reach those small armored enemies without level storage, and take them all down for 100% completion. We get level storage back again and fast travel back to Metalhead, and this level was a fun one with supercharge. First, we race to the one and only dragon pedestal in the level for a checkpoint, but then we quickly backtrack a little bit so we can death abuse. When respawning, we need to be careful not to go straight forwards and into the Metalhead boss fight, since we get locked in there. Our goal is to reach the high platforms near the start of the level. We found a specific path that allows us to reach those platforms, but we need to be quick. We run back up the ramp and U-turn to the right, jump off the edge to reach this roof. From here, we can jump over to the small platform. After a death abuse, we take the same route as before, only this time, when reaching this roof, we turn around and jump on top of this wall. Then we turn around again and jump on top of this even higher roof. And then we jump to the left to reach these gems. The final few gems are at the end of the level, and the only way there is to defeat Metalhead's first phase again. Luckily, supercharging into the pylons breaks them regardless of what colour they are, so this makes it much quicker. Once he starts to run away, we can charge ahead of him and use the ledges on the left to jump straight to the roof that we couldn't reach before. Just like in Misty Bog, we can't supercharge the armoured enemies, but as long as we allowed Metalhead to throw all the monkeys at us in our first visit, then we don't need to defeat any of the monkeys up here. Once we grab the last few gems up here, we have 100% completion in Metalhead. We want to head to Town Square now, but since we've not tried to beat this level yet in this run, we will try it without level storage. We can fast travel to Town Square since we've already unlocked the level and rescue the first dragon near the beginning. This level is essentially a gliding tutorial since there are several gaps throughout, and on the PS1 version all the gaps could be cleared with jump charges. In the Reignited version, these gaps can be cleared with coyote time. Something else that worked on the PS1 but doesn't work here are rotation jumps. Turning on the spot as we jump provides slightly more height than usual, which meant we could reach the end of the level right from the start, but in this version we have another way. It turns out that if you talk to this fairy to replay the dragon cutscene and then quickly stand right here as the dragon is despawning, Spyro gets pushed up and on top of some invisible collision. This doesn't work for the vast majority of dragons, and this is the only one where it proves useful, as we can charge jump straight to the platform near the end of the level. Apparently, the reason this works is due to the stone that the dragon was carving. Its collision is stored above the dragon pedestal, and it can lift us up when it returns to its original position. This basically gives us access to almost the entire level, but there is still a dragon egg thief on the high platform that we still can't reach. Of course, we're supposed to glide there from the top of these stairs, but there is another way, and it's made considerably easier if we have been playing for over 75 minutes. First things first though, we're stuck here, so we need to leave the level and re-enter. We make our way through the level via the intended path this time until we reach this ledge. From here, we can use coyote time to jump straight up here. I tried this without 75 minutes and I just couldn't do it. The thief does not expect us to approach him from this side, so he just accepts his fate. That's 100% in Town Square. Now we can start trying the levels in the Dreamweaver's homeworld, starting with Dark Passage. For our first time playing these levels, we went through without level storage, just to see what could be done without it. As it turns out, not a lot can be done here at all. There's a whirlwind very early on, and without using it, we can't get anywhere. We return to Dark Passage with level storage, and this time we are able to leap all the way over to this pathway over this massive gap. But whereas we were able to grab a handful of gems over here, there's another whirlwind blocking our progress. Things are looking bleak. We resorted to jumping to the various rocks in the distance to see if any of them were solid, and even though some of them were, we simply couldn't purchase on them or reach any other part of the level from them. That Dark Passage stuck at only 8% completion. Next up is Lofty Castle, and this level has a lot of whirlwinds, more than any other level, and they were intended to be used throughout most of the level. In fact, the gimmick of this level is that we're supposed to rescue fairies from their cages so that they can reactivate whirlwinds. Taking full advantage of coyote time, we were able to platform our way to the level's first dragon, although we regretted freeing these fairies as their whirlwind got in our way. We can fall down from here, but there's no way back up again without a whirlwind, so as soon as we grab everything down here, we have to exit and re-enter the level. The big armoured enemies in this level can only be killed by popping their balloons, but if we can't reach their balloons, we can't get their gems either, which is the case for the ones inside here. It isn't long until we reach this dead end. We'll never clear this gap without level storage, so let's get level storage back. This gap is now trivial with a supercharged jump. There are still a few high up parts that we can't reach no matter how good our super jumps are. It's intended that we use a whirlwind to get to the top of a tower and then use a supercharged ramp to land on a ledge that we've not yet been to. But since we have supercharge anywhere, we can skip the whirlwind by jumping over to this ramp, and then from here we can ramp off to that ledge. We struggle to reach any more parts of this level though, as it's just so dependent on whirlwinds. But as we were trying, we discovered discovered that these particular big armoured enemies can be killed by our supercharge. Perhaps due to there being a supercharge ramp in this level, but I'm not complaining. This meant that we could defeat the balloon Gnorcs inside when they floated low enough. But better yet, we even managed to just hit this balloon Gnorc in the distance. We died for it, but we kept the gem. There is only one more gem in this level that it seems like we can reach, and here is the path to get there. We start at the first dragon pedestal of the level, and we jump over to the small bridge on the left. From here we turn around and land on this roof. It's tough to stop supercharging in time before falling off the other side, but it is just doable, although I don't think we're supposed to be able to get here. We can't stand on the other roof in front of us now, but we can just about jump around it and bonk into this tree. From here we can platform our way to this floating platform that we couldn't reach and grab the gems on it. This is about all we can manage in Lofty Castle as we leave it on 76% completion. To the Haunted Towers now. We casually, at first, use the Super Flame power-up to destroy the suits of armour, and then we realise that there is yet another whirlwind preventing our progress. So we'll just have to return with level storage once again. Right away, we feel powerful as supercharging destroys the suits of armour. We can also make it to the main part of the level, and since this level has a supercharge ramp in it anyway, there's not many places we can't reach in this level, with one exception. There is a platform around the other side of the large tower in the centre of the level, and we can supercharge up this ramp to reach that platform, but from here we would need to use this whirlwind to reach the tower's upper floor. This prevents us from attaining 100% in this level, but since every other location is reachable, we still end up with 70% completion. That brings us to the boss level of the Dreamweavers, Jacques. A fair bit of this level can be done without level storage, although the main thing we can't do is defeat Jacques himself. He jumps from one platform to the next, and we're supposed to chase him down to the end, but this gap is far too wide. There's even another whirlwind here to taunt us. We explore the rest of the level instead. Reaching the key is easy enough, and Coyote Time gets us around quite well. There are some parts we still can't reach without level storage though, but we can at least circle back around the level to unlock the metal chest. That puts us on 50% completion for this level, but naturally, level storage can get us more. We clear this wide gap easily now. Whereas this gets us the last dragon and a few more gems, we also run into this area. There are 4 enemies standing on 4 thin yet tall pillars. Each pillar is taller than the last. We're able to supercharge the lower 2 for their gems, but the other 2 are far too high to reach from the ground. This is where we learned that whirlwinds don't affect us while we're supercharging, so we can use this platform for a little bit more height, but it still isn't high enough. The only way we can reach the 3rd tallest pillar is to stand on the 2nd tallest pillar, but with supercharge there's no way we're gonna stop dead on that tiny platform, unless we bonk into the wall behind it to land on it. From here we can hit the 3rd enemy for its gem, but now we will never hit the 4th enemy unless we can find a way to stay on the 3rd pillar. It's much too high to use the wall bonk trick again, but then we did this, completely by accident. We used the wall bonk trick to reach the 2nd pillar as before, and then we supercharge straight towards the 4th pillar. We fall short of hitting the enemy, however, the enemy can still hit us, and they hit us back onto the 3rd pillar. With that, we were close enough to be able to hit that last enemy with our flame breath. That was pure luck. Finally, we were able to defeat Jacques now that we can clear the wide gap that he jumps over and claim the 100 gems that we get for beating him. That puts our total gems on 425 out of 500, and those last 75 gems are all on the platform directly behind the boss fight, next to the ending vortex. Our issue is, no matter how many times we tried, we just could not get on that platform. We used this supercharge path over and over, and even with Coyote Time, we just couldn't get up there. Naturally, the intended method is to use a whirlwind. These gems were the only thing preventing us from getting 100% on this level, and it pained me to have to leave Jacques on 92% completion instead. We can now travel to the 6th and final homeworld. The requirement was having 6,000 gems collected, but by now we have more than enough. Since we've not been here yet, we won't be using level storage for now. It's not much of a homeworld though. There's just a few gems here and a single dragon. There are 2 levels we must complete before we can face the final boss, and what makes these 2 levels different requirement is that we must make it to the end of both of them and use the vortex to exit. Only then will the next level open up. The first one is one of my favourite levels in the game, Gnorc Cove. I just like hitting the barrels into the Gnorcs, although it felt more satisfying on the PS1 somehow. Anyway, this level is very simple considering it's quite late in the game. There's only a single gap in the whole level that we can't make it over, and it's right at the end. Even if we could make it over this gap, we'd be faced with a whirlwind right after it anyway. Thankfully, there is a simple way around this gap. We can just damage boost across the water to where the whirlwind would have brought us. But before using the vortex here, we need to jump down this hole and land on the other side of that gap and grab the gems there that we couldn't reach before. Although we still need to use the vortex to exit the level, as the next level won't open up otherwise. So even though we got 100% completion in Gnorc Cove, we still have to exit and re-enter the level and then race to the end just to get the next level to open up. Of course, we have to use the damage boost to reach the vortex just like the first time. Now for the final level before the final boss, Twilight Harbor. It isn't long until we see a whirlwind, and given how linear this level is, there's no way around this. In any other homeworld, we would just cut our losses and exit the level, but we need to get to the end of the level and reach that vortex if we want to unlock the final boss. Well, as it happens, there is a way to bypass this whirlwind. It's just very difficult. Right at the start of the level, we're on a pier, and to our left, we can see wooden logs sticking out of the water. You'd be forgiven for thinking that these were just part of the level design, but they do actually have solid collision. We need to use these to platform our way to the next part of the level. This will get us around the whirlwind, but it's very unintended. And whereas a few of them are quite close together, some of them are quite far apart as well. If we want to make it across this, we need to only use damage boosts where absolutely necessary. Coyote time will help us get over some of the wider gaps without taking damage, but with how little room we have to work with, it took a lot of practice to pull off some of these jumps. It's the jump around the corner that caught us out the most. There's very little room for error here. One wrong move and we take one more damage boost than we can afford, and the best way to get around that corner is to tap the charge button to start charging and then quickly jump to carry a bit of the charging momentum into the jump. This helped us land on the log around the corner, but we need to ensure that we have at least green sparks by this point for one more damage boost. If we don't, we need to start again and practice all those jumps before this corner so we can make it here with only 2 damage boosts. A helpful tip is that we can rotate Spyro on the spot in look mode to help line up our jumps without moving Spyro. Eventually, we make it to the corner jump with green sparks, and we landed on the next log perfectly. We need this last damage boost for the wide gap, so we can't afford to fall in the water on any other jump. We reached this log with no more damage boosts left, and even though this gap looked quite far, it actually wasn't that bad. We need to be very careful not to take any damage from the enemies, and once we finally make it over the other side, we quickly grab the nearby dragon for a checkpoint, so we never have to do that again. That section made this level unique in that level storage would have made things even more difficult, but from here we can go backwards through the level to grab all the gems until we see the whirlwind that would have brought us up here in the first place. The only other part of this level worth mentioning is the supercharged ramp section. We just need to use it to reach these yellow gems instead of gliding to the roof, so it's not that hard. Compared to the beginning, the rest of the level is quite simple, so that's 100% in Twilight Harbor. As we return to Gnorc Gnexus, the dragon statue to the Gnasty Gnorc opens up, also revealing the last few gems in the Gnorc Gnexus, so that's 100% in this homeworld. Once we're up against Gnasty Gnorc, we can play the boss fight as normal for the most part. Grabbing the keys and chasing Gnasty Gnorc is all the same. We can also grab most of the gems on the way, and Gnasty drops a few gems when we flame him. The problem comes right at the end with the platforming over the lava. On the PS1, we could use jump charges to just make it all the way across the lava, but here, we can't even reach the first platform, no matter how good our coyote time is. Plus, dying here means we have to restart the whole encounter all over again. If we can't make it over this lava, then we miss out on the last few gems of this level, and we can't access the game's bonus level. So we tried level storage, and we can use supercharge to jump straight up to Gnasty's ledge without needing the keys. Except this means Gnasty won't run away, so we can't progress the fight. We can grab the keys pretty quick with supercharge, and we don't even even need to use the second key to lower the platform. As long as we have the second key, Gnasty will still run away if we jump straight up there. But now our problem is there's no way we can finish this boss level within 30 seconds. We could use shortcuts during the chase sequence to make Gnasty run faster, but it will never be fast enough. There are no checkpoints in this boss fight at all either, so either we beat the encounter start to finish all in one go, or we don't beat it at all. Unfortunately, that leaves this level on just 40% completion due to how many gems Gnasty would have dropped if we defeated him. This looks like the end of the run. This is the final boss after all, and we've done all we can in every previous level. The bonus levels dragon statue won't open unless we collect 100% of the collectibles in the rest of the game. So what's next? Well, there is one more glitch we can use, and in my opinion, it's the most interesting glitch in the game. It's called fairy storage, and even though the devs tried to patch this one out, there's still a way to do it. The idea is to store a fairies menu whilst also opening the balloonists menu at the same time, in order to once again load more than one level at a time. If we stand on a dragon pedestal, we can talk to the fairy to replay the dragon's cutscene. There is a specific pedestal we want to use, and it's this one in the Peacekeeper's homeworld. We use this one because it's the closest to a balloonist. Just make sure to take out the surrounding enemies and burn the tent in the way. We need to stand about here so that we can talk to the fairy but also have a direct line between us and the balloonist. We talk to the fairy to open this menu. We then select continue, but then we talk to the fairy again on the next frame. You'll know you got it as the camera will barely move. From here, we select Replay Dragon, but then hold charge immediately afterwards. Our setup causes a delay with the cutscene, so we can charge forward before the cutscene plays. If we manage to charge ahead just far enough, the balloonist's travel menu will open automatically as the dragon cutscene starts. We quickly select Artisans from the balloonist menu, and then we press triangle to cancel the dragon cutscene. Cancelling the cutscene returns some control of Spyro to us, but the game is still trying to lift us up with the balloon so it can take us to Artisans. We can see the level deload below us, and even the balloon deloads visually, but there is still something down there. There's a square floating far below us. This square was always inside the mountain behind the Peacekeeper's balloonist, and now with that mountain deloaded we can see it clearly. Since we managed to maintain control of Spyro, we can jump off the balloon if we want. This usually sees us falling into the void, and then the game loads us into Artisans as normal anyway. But if we wait for the balloon to raise just high enough and then aim our landing perfectly, it is just possible to land on this square. And the reason we want to do that is that this square is a homeworld travel trigger left behind by the developers. Just touching this square opens a menu of all the homeworlds in the game. Even if we hadn't visited these homeworlds in this playthrough, they would still be in this list. The list even displays during this load screen that we're still on. We want to select Gnasty's homeworld, but we need to time it just right as the menu disappears. This ensures that both Artisans and Gnasty's home loads in at the same time. This has a very strange effect on the game. We can see the game trying to load in the right level below us as the balloon lowers, but we still have control of Spyro. We need to fall off the balloon to land in Artisans early, and the first thing we notice is that all the gems and dragons are back. What we have actually done is confuse the game enough and kinda enter an unintended new game plus. We need to death abuse in the nearby water quickly, but any gems that we collect or dragons that we rescue here, they will add to our totals that we already have, which means we can essentially duplicate gems and dragons. I didn't want to do that in this run as it would artificially increase the total collectibles that we have, but I did make the mistake of collecting one red gem as I rushed to the water. After the death abuse, the game auto-saves, but it also kinda just resets itself and the intro cutscene plays again. We skip it and we load back into Artisans, again with all the collectibles returned, despite us already having them all. When we pause the game, we can see that the game thinks we're in the Gnorc Gnexus, since that's where we tried to travel to from the dev warp square. If we want to get out of this pseudo new game plus, all we need to do is quit the game and reload the save file. The game will now load in the Gnorc Gnexus like it's been wanting wanting to do, and with everything that we just did, we are now back to our original save file. However, loading in the homeworld this way spawns the second dragon that we need to rescue. Normally, we would need to defeat Gnasty Gnorc before we can rescue this dragon, but not only that. You may have noticed, but this has also despawned all the dragon head statues. We believe this is due to loading in Artisans and Gnorc Gnexus at the same time, since they both contain those dragon head statues. But whatever the reason, it's very convenient. In fact, this whole setup for fairy storage is very convenient. Peacekeepers just so happens to have a dragon pedestal close to the balloonist, and a dev warp trigger just so happens to be right behind the Peacekeeper's balloonist. Artisans just so happens to have one of those big dragon head statues that causes those same statues in the Nexus to deload, and the second dragon in the Gnorc Gnexus homeworld just so happens to load in for us to rescue. But best of all, this means that we can now enter the bonus level, Gnasty's Loot, even though we don't have 100% completion. Before we talk about Gnasty's Loot though, if we look at the guidebook, we can see that we have 201 out of 200 gems in the Peacekeeper's homeworld. This is due to that one red gem that we collected during the fairy storage glitch, and even though we were in Artisans when we grabbed it, it counted to Peacekeeper's total, since that's where we were when we started the glitch. I regretted getting this gem at first, but it's actually served as a perfect example of what gem duplication looks like. There's a total of 2,000 gems in Gnasty's Loot, so let's see how much we can get. The gimmick of this level is that we can fly just like a speedway, but the height cap while flying is only as high as we can platform our way to. If we can jump to higher platforms, we can raise the height cap to our newfound height. Our issue is, of course, we can't fly in this level, as that's against our rules, and the whole level is built around being able to fly. We start on an isolated platform, but we found a way to reach the main part of the level. We jump around to the right side towards the lava, and damage boost twice to reach this small ledge. From here, we damage boost once more to get across the lava, and we can just jump up to the platform above. We made it to the bulk of the level, but now we're sparksless. A small price to pay though. We can grab all the gems in this area, and we can chase down a thief to grab a key, which we can then use to open this door. That gets us 50 more gems, but that seems to be the maximum of what we can do here with our limitations. This puts us on 400 out of 2,000 gems in Gnasty's Loot, but we know that level storage could get us more. With only 30 seconds, we need to be optimal with our supercharge routes if we want to collect as many gems as possible. This is the main route that we used multiple times to collect a good number of gems. We can light the rockets on these roofs to destroy the metal chests, but of course, supercharging into those chests breaks them anyway. The more we repeated this route, the further we could take it, as there were less that we needed to collect each time. Although at one point, the time limit did run out before we had a chance to fast travel or death abuse, and then we accidentally selected quit instead of retry. We'd never done this before, so we weren't sure what the result would be, and well, it's this. Just this. A black void with just a pigeon to keep us company, because we also can't move. Anyway, with level storage, we were able to grab a total of 890 gems out of 2,000. We can even find one of the planes, but we can't destroy it until this door has been unlocked, so that doesn't help us. We can't reach anywhere else in the level without flying, even with level storage. It was only after using level storage that we discovered that if we don't use level storage, it's still possible to reach the second thief by jumping and charging into this wall at the perfect angle and bonking so that we bounce back onto the higher platform, which now means it's possible to get both keys from both thieves and open the door to release the plane. We can destroy that plane from the ground as it flies quite low and obtain the third key all without level storage. This would have gotten us a few more gems if we hadn't already used level storage to get here, so this has not changed our 890 gem total. Now, as far as this challenge is concerned, you, the viewer, are welcome to consider this the absolute maximum that we can do without gliding or flying. That would put the grand total completion percentage for this whole game on 87 out of 120, because Gnasty's Loot counts for an extra 20%. However, if we really want to push this challenge to its absolute limit, we can do one more thing. So far, we've been limited to 30 seconds during level storage, but it's possible to extend that time limit massively to 10 minutes. The only way to do this is to perform the level storage glitch using a speedway speedway in Spyro 2 in the same way that we already have, except we use a speedway that's already been completed. Of course, this means that we have to use a pre-set up Spyro 2 save file that has not been following our no flying rule. This can easily be considered against the rules of this challenge, but it's up to you guys where you want to draw the line. Out of curiosity, let's see what more we can do with 10-minute level storage. The most obvious thing that we can do is defeat Gnasty Gnorc now. The only issue we had here was the time limit, which means we can get 100 more gems and 100% completion in this boss level. We can even supercharge into him to deliver the final blow. But regarding every previous level that we haven't beaten 100%, having essentially no time limit on the level storage doesn't help us at all. In all those levels, we've already been able to take full advantage of the 30 seconds we had, as well as using the checkpoints in those levels as new starting points. We wouldn't be able to make any more progress in any other level, except for Gnasty's loot. We've been able to reach the first plane for the key that it drops, and in a separate visit, we were able to reach the door that key opens. So we thought that we just need to grab the key and then jump up to open that door. How wrong we were. It turns out if you grab the first 3 keys, with the third one being from the plane, the height cap of the level is set to just above the height of this platform. This means that we can no longer supercharge back up to the central building that we used last time, which also means we can't jump to the third door. However, it turns out the height cap will be lowered again if you approach the steps that lead to the first thief for the first time. So this means that we can use supercharge to get the second key first from the thief on the grass, then supercharge jump beyond the first door so we can open the second door with the second key, since not just any key works on any door. Then we destroy the plane for the third key as it flies by. We now need to return to the bottom floor near the first thief. We approach that area from the side by going back up to the grass first. If we get too close to the steps in front of us, the height cap is lowered, but if we supercharge jump over those steps, the height cap is still lowered, but we also get just enough height to be above the height cap. This means that we can stand on top of the invisible height cap, like it's a big invisible floor, and from here we can supercharge jump to reach the third door. Since we've already destroyed the first plane, we already have the third key for this door. There are 50 more gems inside, and we can even destroy the second plane before it takes off if we're fast enough. This gives us the fourth key, and the fourth door is right here. That gives us 10 more gems for a total of 950. There's no way we could have done all that in 30 seconds. This really is where the challenge comes to an end though. There is only one final platform in Gnasty's loot, and it's on the other side of the map. The intended method is to fly all the way over there, since opening the fourth door raises the height cap as high as it will go. There's no way of reaching it from anywhere else in the level with supercharged jumps, which is annoying because there is 1050 gems over there. That leaves Gnasty's loot on 47% completion. So, can you beat Spyro Reignited without gliding or flying? Yes, you can. Can you beat it without glitches? No, you can't. Do I wish I had used glitches in the original PS1 video? Yes, I do, and I'll show you why. I recently learned about this glitch in the original Spyro that could have been very useful for the glideless challenge, and I believe it's called dragon hovering. When Spyro enters a portal from the home world, the game doesn't try to load that level until the camera touches the portal first. The camera will usually always follow Spyro into the portals, but if you can get the camera stuck on the edge of the portal itself, sometimes the camera fails to follow Spyro in when he touches the portal. This results in Spyro dying and respawning at the last checkpoint, but the game is now confused. From now on, if Spyro dies, he respawns at that same checkpoint again, but at a much higher altitude for some reason. If we death abuse again, Spyro spawns even higher than last time. We can keep repeating this death abuse to respawn higher and higher each and every time. Thinking of what I could have potentially used dragon hovering for in my original glideless run, I really wish I'd taken the time to learn the glitches back then. I might even have been able to reach Town Square portal without using the whirlwind. Who knows? This is why I like using glitches in these runs. I know some people don't like it, but learning interesting obscure things like this blows my mind sometimes. Anyway, back to Reignited. These are our total percentages for all the levels in the game, and our grand total percentage is 90 out of 120. If you think you can do any better than this, please let me know in the comments. Or maybe we can brainstorm some new ideas together in our Discord server. Oh, and if you enjoyed challenge runs like this, then maybe you could help us reach 100,000 subscribers. We're so close. Thank you all for watching, and thank you to those who helped me with this challenge: Tor, William Zingelman, and fellow challenge runner, The Box Links. Maybe check out a few of their challenge run videos as well. I'll link their channel in the description. Of course, here's a shout out to all our biggest supporters. They are 99 Elixir, Andrew McDonald, Borger Rami, Beef, Billiam, Buki J, CD Project 7, Chub Master Chan, DeBromba, Dime 1000, Dorian Amesbury, Electric Tuner, Emperor Prime, Fister Knightley, Floop, Fergie, Gardenburger, Gingy Ginge, Griffey, LJ, Jonathan Godbout, Josh Peterson, JP, Justin Becker, Cola E. Ero, Kyle Hewitt, Lynn Bloom, Ludward, Marv Watt, Mayday, Mornfo Istic, Notan, Phoebe Draper, Quinlan, Rapier, Rocket Plod, Sam Watford, Spectrum Z, The Little Kobold Who Could, Vivi is Vicious, Zion97, A Lazy Dragon, Dino1303, Duigi, Evolve Pixel, Finn Living with a Ghost, $40 Mouse, Fritzel, Gorgot TV, Hakey Jerry 14, Ham Scoffer, Hair Druid Taynuel, Henneman 1, Jesus Christ 00AD, John Fitz 49, Cami 7, McDevy Pants, Mebby Man, Megidose, Melphilis, Notarn, Orgraz Grizzo, Possible Psycho, Potoma 13, Sausage 881, Spawn of Hastur, Spectrum Z90, Spice Autor, Static Jokes, 10 divided by 6, The Jammy Emperor, The Real Shrek 83, Threadbird, Tim Zero, Tor DS, Tauster, True DK0, Username JP, Velvet Violetta, Vivi the Vicious, Zenot Soul, A Lazy Dragon, LED23, Stephen Foot, Tor, and Wesley Austin. Thank you all very much. Okay, I'm going to link the PS1 Spyro video on the screen. You can watch it if you want to, but just know that I've come a long way since then. In fact, maybe you're better off watching our Ratchet & Clank challenge runs instead. I'll link those too. Oi, Activision. Greenlight a new Spyro game, you cowards.